This part deals with a function that returns a function. Now at first glance, this example may seem quite complicated, but I'm confident that we'll work through this one, even though initially it seems quite complicated. So let me take an example. Here again, we're dealing with bank accounts. Consider the act of depositing a check into your bank account. So whenever you have an initial balance in your bank account, when you deposit a check into your bank account increases. You have a new balance in your bank account, which is more than you had previously. Also, when you withdraw an amount from your bank account will decrease from its initial value. Now in this scenario, we are going to do deposits into our bank account, and the deposits are done every Monday. We also are going to do withdrawals, and these withdrawals are done every Friday. So let's carry on with the scenario. So what I'm doing here is I'm defining two accounts, because I have a personal account and I also have a business account. Let's just imagine I own a business and I keep two separate accounts, one account for my personal use and the second account for my business use. Now what I'm doing here is I'm defining a tuple called account 1, and this tuple stores two values. It stores a string and it stores a double. The string stores the name of my bank and whether it's a personal business account, and it stores my initial balance of account number 1. Then I'm defining another tuple called account 2 with my second bank account name, which is a business account, and this is my initial value, initial balance for that bank account. So here again, this is a string and that's a double. So two tuples have been set up. Okay. So whenever I make a deposit, it's going to add the new amount of the check to my old or initial balance. So I've set up a function that updates my account whenever I make a deposit, and this function is called deposit. So that's the name of the function, deposit. It's going to take in two parameters. The first parameter is going to be the amount I'm going to deposit, which is a double, and the second parameter is going to be the tuple which I set up. Remember, I set up two tuples. One was called account 1 and account 2. So I'm going to pass through either account 1 or account 2 as a parameter. And if you'll remember the tuple consisted of the name of my bank account, which was a string, and the initial balance, which was a double. So two parameters being passed to this function: the amount of the check to be deposited and the tuple of my account 1 or account 2. Once it's deposited the check, so it's going to update my balance and get the new balance. It's going to add the old balance from the tuple to the amount of the check that I deposited, and it's going to get the new balance. Then it's going to return a tuple to me. The tuple being the name of my account and the new balance, the string and the double. It's going to return the name of my account and my new balance. So to recap what this function does, it accepts two parameters: the amount of the check, the tuple, which is the old balance, name of my account and the old balance. It's going to update the account and return the name of my account and the new balance. So in this case, it's going to take in a tuple and return the tuple. Also, whenever I make withdrawals, the opposite's going to happen. It's going to decrease my initial bank account balance. So this function here is identical to this function, except instead of plus sign I have minus sign. It means it's going to decrease my account balance. So it's identical to the first function, but this function is called withdraw. It's going to take in how much I'm going to withdraw from my account. It's going to pass through the tuple, which is the name of account and the initial balance. So then going to subtract the withdrawal amount and then return another tuple with the account name and the updated balance. So far, nothing really crazy in this example, because we have dealt with returning tuples previously. So once the functions are defined, how do I use them? Okay. Now, here's something that was introduced to Swift that's really revolutionary. You can assign a function to a constant. So I have two functions, one's called deposit and withdraw. They're up here. There's the function called deposit, and there's the function called withdraw. You could assign these functions to a constant. So what I'm doing here is I said to you that deposits are made on Monday and withdrawals are made on Friday. So what I'm doing is I'm assigning this function to a constant called Monday transaction, and here I'm assigning this function to a constant called Friday transaction. Why do I want to do this? You'll see later on. I would like to pass or output these functions from another function, and that's the only way I could do it, if I assign these functions to constant functions, and I can output from one function, output another function. Good. Now once I've defined those constants, I need to now call these functions. So I'm indirectly using this constant Monday transaction to call the deposit function. So I'm calling this constant Monday transaction, which is going to call my deposit function. And remember, the deposit function needs two parameters. It needs how much I want to deposit, which is a double, and then I'm going to pass another parameter to it, which is a tuple, which is account 1, which consists of two parameters or two variables: the name of the account and the initial balance. So I'm calling the function indirectly using this constant and passing how much I want to deposit into which account which initial balance. So it goes up to the function, updates my new balance, and returns my new balance as a tuple, and that tuple gets into a constant called Monday's balance. So Monday's new balance is returned from the function. How do I know it worked? Have a look at this. Okay, you will see that my new balance on Monday, after I've deposited 300 dirhams, is now 1331. 1311. It used to be 1011, and I deposited 300, so it's now 1311. Here, 1311. Let's do a withdrawal, and I'm going to call the withdrawal function now, but I'm going to call it indirectly using the Friday transaction constant. So I call it using the Friday transaction constant, which goes and calls the withdrawal function, and I pass through it the amount I want to withdraw, which is a double. From which account I want to withdraw 1,200 from the account 2. It then passes this amount, which is a double, and passes this tuple, which is the name of the account and the initial balance, up to the function. Once the function withdraws the amount from my balance, updates my balance, it then returns the new balance, which is a decreased amount, into Friday balance. Let's check if it's okay. I initially had, in account 2, I initially had 24,309. I then withdrew 1,200. I'm now left with 23,109. So that's, one way I could call these functions individually whenever I want to make a deposit or withdrawal. Now let's try and do something neat. Let's try and write a function that's going to return a function. Sounds quite complicated, but actually it's not. So now we're going to try something quite neat, where we're going to get a function to return a function. So I'm creating a new function called choose transaction, and this function is going to take two parameters. Sorry, it's going to take one parameter, input parameter. It's going to take a string that can either be, the string can either be deposit or the string can be withdraw. Based on that string, it's going to output a function, and the function is going to be either deposit or withdraw. And you'll notice that we have two arrows here. Okay, let me explain what's going on here. This is the input parameter, which is a string that either can be deposit or it can be withdraw. And the output is going to be a function, and this function has a double, which is the amount I want to withdraw or deposit, the name of the account, the initial balance of the account. So this function itself has two inputs. it has the amount I want to withdraw or deposit, and it has the name, which is a tuple, which has the name of the account and the initial balance. Once it's done the withdrawal or deposit, it's then going to output the name of the account and the new balance. Good. So these two arrows may seem confusing to you initially, but this just means this part here is the input parameter, and this part here is the output parameter. But this output, since it's a function, it also has input parameters and output parameters. The input parameters for the function that's going to be outputted is going to be double the amount to be withdrawn or deposited, from which account, what's the initial balance, and once the function has returned the value, it's going to return a tuple back, which will be the name of the account and the new balance, which is a double. This is the body of the function. If the transaction was a deposit, it's going to return the deposit function. If the transaction was not deposit, it means that it was a withdrawal, then it's going to return the withdrawal function. Let's test the function. I'm going to call this function, which is the choose transaction function here, and I'm going to pass this string withdraw to it. Based on the string, which is an input parameter, it's then going to call the appropriate function, either the deposit function or the withdrawal function. It's then going to pass through to that function the amount that I want to withdraw, the tuple called account 1, which consists of my bank account name and my initial balance. It's then going to update my account and return a tuple, which is the name of my account and my new balance. Yeah, I call the choose transaction function again. This time I pass through string called deposit and pass through a tuple of how much I want to deposit, from which account. This is a tuple, from which account, what's the initial value of that account. Function executes, which means the deposit function will execute, and then the tuple will be returned, the name of the account and the updated balance.